great to hear from Daniele Milano, and just how enthusiasm he is about running, but about trail running, of course, but life in general. And shout out to his magazine here,
For Running Magazine.
Yeah, For
he brought
Running
us both a
Magazine,
copy, which was really nice of him.
And I just spotted there was a Kiwi on the cover too. So
makes you feel good.
Nancy Jang, but
there you
shout
go.
out to her. Welcome back, Francesco. We had you here in the studio yesterday.
You're making yourself a regular guest on La Sportiva Radio.
Thank you.
Winner of yesterday's 50-kilometer race. Not quite under that 4 hour, but pretty close. Congratulations again for the race. How are the legs feeling this morning?
Yeah, pretty sore, obviously, but I was able to jog a little bit. I went up to Colgalina to watch the 120K race. So I was like hiking and jogging a little bit on the trail, and it felt pretty good to move the legs after yesterday.
So is that a good thing to do after a really hard race, a long race? It's better to get out and run or complete rest?
I think it depends. Usually I try to rest for maybe a couple of days with no running at all. Maybe do some cycling, which has less impact compared to running. But now I'm like trying to build for longer races. So I thought, why not running a little bit? My coach suggested to try to move a little bit. So I tried, and it wasn't too bad.
That's good.
Very slow though.
Yeah,
very slow.
Respect the body. That's important.
Yeah.
But I bet nice being out there and cheering the 120 coming through. So
it was.
Yeah, what was it like this morning? Kind of the atmosphere out there. Were there lots of other people out there cheering, or did the runners appreciate that when they hear you're out there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there is always a little group of friends that typically gathers at Colgalina on Saturday morning to wait for all the runners, and they're probably out there for like 12 hours to wait until the very back of the pack. So I was there for a couple of hours. I saw Pem Diman going through, and there was quite a large crowd, to be honest, being like 8 a.m. in the morning. And then we saw Raul and Andreas, second and third. Tobias, very close in fourth place. And then I waited until Corny came through, and obviously she's a fan favorite, so lots of people cheering for her, and it was nice to see.
I think that's really interesting because I think we could also label you as a fan favorite. But hearing
not
you
quite as much as Corny.
But hearing you talk about, you just won a race, a prestigious race, and the very next morning you're out there supporting. It sounds like your friends and your colleagues. And I guess like coming into this sport and thinking about running, you often picture the solitary individual out on the road or out on the trail. But my impression being around here, being around the LUT, is that would you consider trail running, ultra running, an individual sport or a team sport?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like to say that it's a team sport. For me, it's still an individual sport because obviously you're out there
doing it yourself.
You rely on your own legs.
It's just two of them.
You've got to get
there. And mind and body. But then, the support team around you is obviously very important. More in the everyday training, I think, than during the actual race. Yeah, I think if you just have enough motivation, you always have the energy to. Like you can always gather the energies to do your best on race day. What it's really hard to do is like to be very consistent day after day and put in the work and trust the process, as they say. That is not easy, obviously, and if you surround yourself with the right people, it helps a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Could you maybe tell, like, what kind of team of support do you have for your training, coaching, nutrition, things like that? Do you work on mental training? Is there somebody that helps you with that?
Yeah, so I have two coaches, one for the endurance side and one for strength work. So it's more like specific, and they talk to each other. So we try to integrate both of this this training into my plan. And then yeah, I have a nutritionist. I don't really follow like a strict diet, but it's more like based on some pretty solid principles, I would say, and it's mainly about making sure I'm getting enough calories to sustain my training, and then thinking about the macronutrients and yeah, everything I need to to stay healthy, which is the number one thing, and perform at my best. I think you cannot perform at your best if you're not healthy, and yeah, I think. More and more athletes are starting to understand that the culture has shifted a little bit from like skinnier is equal faster to now stronger is faster. So that's been nice to see.
Interesting. Well, before we get into some really interesting themes, which I'm really curious about, especially things like the commercialization, professionalism that we're seeing in these changes coming in. But maybe just give a really quick recap of your personal journey, starting running, moving through mountain running for many years, and now moving into longer distances. So just tell us a little bit of your story.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to add regarding the last question. My sport psychologist is also very, very important. I think yeah, it's changed my life and my relationship with running, and I've always been an individual without a whole lot of like self-confidence. I'm not very self-confident. Have a lot of doubt, and yeah, I tend to not really value myself or what I do. So that's been extremely helpful for me to.
Let's expand on that. And so,
Yeah.
what sort of advice would he give you, or maybe that we can share with other people out there listening?
Yeah, I think it's about creating a safe place where you can be yourself more than actually having answers to your problems or to what you feel. But you learn to like give a name to what you feel and express yourself, which is not obvious. I think a lot of times we feel things that we don't really understand what they are and where they come from. So yeah, it's about understanding and putting some order, I would say.
Having a
within-
vocabulary,
yeah.
Having a vocabulary
I think
to be
that's
able to
been
express
key.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like a toolkit that you can draw on.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
And then it's like learning that not to push back any emotions. Like all the emotions have a reason. You don't have to fight them. But of course, there is like some more functional or some less functional responses to those emotions. So you can play with that a little bit, and yeah, depending on what you want and your goals and everything, you can have different responses more than like reactions. It's better to respond instead of react,
I
because,
think that's a great way to put it, exactly, because there is a huge difference between those two,
Yeah.
responding and just reacting.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that a little bit because it's a topic I really care about.
That's
and,
great, and it's really insightful, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean,
I agree, and it's and it's really cool, kind of hearing that from an elite runner. How that we often put top athletes on the pedestal and say, oh wow, they're so amazing, they must be so confident, they must know what they're doing, but it's not always like that, is it?
Yeah, we're human. I mean, you've been a super top athlete, so you know how it is. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, and we're just like everyone else. So I think now that the mental health topic has been more like normalized,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
easy to talk about it. But until a few years ago, it was a little bit of a taboo.
another shout out to the younger generation, I think,
I know,
for
that's-
helping society start to
Why are they
normalize.
so smart?
I think it was especially after the Tokyo Olympics that people, like athletes especially, really
Sure.
started talking about it, and
Yeah,
Now I
became
remember
a-
there started to be a tipping
yeah.
point around that time as well, where, like I know in America, there were some very famous NBA basketball players, but just other top athletes that were willing. Serena Williams, that was willing to come out and talk about
Yeah.
some of the mental health aspects and some of the pressures. Do you find that some of the pressure that you feel comes more from yourself?
Yeah.
Or being a public person and like being very visible in the social media world and whatnot, you're also, I'm sure, hearing voices, or do you find a way to kind of try and block that out and just take the pressure from yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest pressure always comes from myself, just because you always want to do more, to be better, and on one hand, that's a huge source of motivation, and I think it's part of the DNA of any elite athlete.
Sure.
You know, you want to always improve and grow. On the other hand, it can be a little dangerous and sometimes detrimental. Like it can definitely turn against you. Um, so yeah, I think, you know, sometimes we project our thoughts on other people and think that they are putting pressure on us, but it's actually pressure that comes from ourselves. So to realize that is important, and I think once you realize that, it's not that people don't care, but um, like what we do, our races, our results, on the grand scheme of things, they don't really matter. So once you realize that, I think it's very freeing, and not to say that I don't care. Obviously, I really care, but you know, it allows you to
keep it in
live that.
perspective.
I
Yeah.
believe it's possible to kind of both you care very, very, very much, but also understand it's a like as
It's
how
not
do you
your
how do you
identity.
respond to that that
Yeah.
caring is that it doesn't, or how do you define
Like
success?
you're not your results, you're not your races, you're not your times. Being able to separate your identity from that is very important. You're more than just an athlete, more than just a runner.
Has your definition of success changed as you've gotten older or evolved?
Yeah, I think so. I think in the early years it was more about proving myself and
Proving
like
that you belong.
showing people that I could you know, perform to up to a certain level, and like maybe basically like my idea of self-worth was based on my race results and times and
Expectation of
expectations.
others.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. That's right.
And now it's more like self-centered, I would say, and process-oriented. And I think it's important to understand that the result of a race or of any process is just the tip of the iceberg of something much longer.
That's so
And
true.
not everything is actually under your control. Like there is a lot of variables that you can control, but a lot that you cannot control. So as long as you know, do your best and put in the work and also have fun, I think you can be content and not blame yourself for not being enough or not
Oh, exactly.
living up to your expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the enjoying the process is a key is a key point.
Yeah, well, you said it even earlier, that like beautiful sports phrase of trusting the process in your training.
Yeah, I mean,
in your
I-
routine.
It's not easy, but
No, it's not
because
always.
there's not a recipe. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's different for it looks different for everyone, and yeah, it's definitely taken me a long time to get there. But I feel now it's there. Yeah, I feel in a good place, and the funny thing is that is actually reflecting in my race results.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say.
You become
your
more
results
relaxed,
Also seem to
yeah.
be,
As long as you reduce this pressure that you put on yourself, you also start to perform better.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you actually think that, you know, you cannot like you cannot decrease that pressure from yourself, because if you do, then you're gonna be worse. And like you try to put more control on yourself, but it ends up like controlling yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
What to say.
But I think it's in. I mean, certainly, looking back at my own running career, I think if you don't enjoy the process, if you don't enjoy the training, you put so many hours into it, then you come to race day, and that's just the smallest part of it. That's the tip of the iceberg, as you said. So
Beautiful metaphor.
So you have to enjoy that. And then when it comes to race day, if you can't control the pressure, as you say, I mean, I kind of sum it up by saying, the agitation or the nervousness that you feel. I think of it as like butterflies in the stomach. But as long as you can make those, because it's good to be nervous. It's good to have that feeling to be ready, But you need to control that. So keep the butterflies there, but just make sure that they're all flying in formation, all flying in the same direction. So you take the positive energy of it. But you control it. That you can be tense and ready, but you're also have a state of relaxation. And I think you summed that up really, really nicely. So.
You've been racing for a long time now. Do you still get a nervous energy in those moments before the starting gun when you're out there on the street getting ready with the other 10, 15 people? Like, do you get those butterflies?
And how many years as well have you been? When did you start?
Yeah, way too long.
And how do you kind of what do you do to try and change that nervous energy into positive performance?
Yeah, I try to think that this is what I really like to do. It's something that I've chosen. I have no obligation to be there. It's because I want to. So that completely changes the perspective. Like, I'm not there because I have to, but running is a gift. Like, running is a huge privilege that we have, and something that we get to do. So yeah, it's beautiful to be out there and race other athletes and run through beautiful places. So
yeah, well,
that's wonderful. That's a wonderfully
and you really live the sport as well. So you're a racer, you're a trainer, but you're also a podcaster. You're very active on social media. You're also a member of the Pro Trail Runners Association, and really working for the benefit of the athletes. So maybe like you're a 360-degree athlete. It's a trendy thing to say. But yeah, tell us a bit about those other things that you do, which are really important to keep the growth of the sport and keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I never really wanted to develop my career in running just as an athlete, like going from one race to another. And of course, I totally respect athletes who do that and who are just focused on their career and performance. But I feel like I want to have a bigger impact than what I can maybe have with just my results, which they may be good or not, but they come and go. But my goal is to try to elevate the sport and make the sport better for the future generations. And when I entered the sport of trail and mountain running, it was not developed, and I realized there were a lot of limitations and things that needed to be improved. And I wanted to do something for the sport to provide better opportunities for especially elite athletes, which is the category I care about the most, but also like average runner, like any participant in trail and ultra running. So yeah, I've tried to devote some of my time and energy to different projects to go in this direction.
Yeah, cool. And how many people are on the Pro Trail Runners Association? So maybe just tell us a bit
Yeah.
about the group and when it was formed, and what you think still needs to be done.
Yeah. So the Pro Trail Runners Association was founded 3 years ago. It was the end of 2022, and it started as an idea of Kilian Jornet and me and Pascal Egli, who were the original founders. And basically, we felt that we were at a pivotal moment in the sport, and with the development of circuits and the professionalization of the sport, also the commercialization and the involvement of brands and federations and just different actors, and we felt like athletes were missing a little bit, or like not always our voice and interests were listened to. And obviously, like if if I complain and I'm just by myself, no one is listening. But if we create a group of people and an association, we're stronger together. And yeah, we just wanted to try to have a voice, basically at the same level of other stakeholders in the sport, being race organizers, circuits,
I think
brands,
that's certainly fair.
federations.
Yeah,
And now we're about 300 athletes,
Wow.
among the best of the sport. And we're structured with a general board that is the core of the association, where the main topics and key decisions are being taken. And then we have a few different working groups who are focused on different areas of what we do. But I feel like one of our main objectives is like to just provide feedback, for example, to WMRA or UTMB or World Athletics, where I think we've been recognized as a relevant voice in the sport. So whenever they have something they have a question or an issue that they want um, to decide or to think about, they come to us and consult with us, and we try to give feedback and just work with them.
Yeah, well, I think it's great that it's been set up to cover all aspects and all circuits of the sport, because you had previous experience on the Athletes Commission run by the WMRA, but of course that was focused very much on WMRA activities. So I think having a larger group that's really looking globally around the whole sport, I think has been a really positive step, and I've already seen plenty of influence on that already at various races as well. So keep up the good work.
Yeah. I think also like with mountain running falling a little bit more under the trail running umbrella, it made more sense to have a larger group to take care of the sport under the Pro Trail Runners Association. And then the Athletic Commission of the WMRA is more instrumental for the WMRA itself, and maybe the WMRA World Cup. But yeah, we're not working against anyone. We try to work with other people, other associations, and stakeholders, so that the sport can grow in a good direction.
Yeah, well, using the word pro as my segue, you become a professional athlete yourself. What are the kind of the challenges? Because it's kind of like the dream. I can be a professional athlete. I have all this time. I can do what I want. But it's a bit more to it than that.
Like, what does professionalism inside trail running in this world right now, in this moment, entail outside of just winning races?
And I mean, and to add on to that, I mean, I can also see, because we've talked about the mental health side of it, and that must be an influence as well.
Yeah, totally. You're right. So yeah, it also depends on how you define a professional runner. Because if you define a professional runner as someone who has a monetary contract with a brand, yeah, there are quite a few opportunities now in the sport. but not everybody is like a full professional. Many people prefer to maybe keep a side job because obviously you're not running the whole day. Like training doesn't occupy the whole day, so if your job is flexible enough, you can definitely have another occupation, and then still run at a really high level. So a lot of athletes do that. Others prefer to just focus on running, and then of course, not all contracts are high enough
Sure.
to allow athletes to.
I'm sure there's probably a pretty big range in the amounts of money involved
exactly.
in the contracts.
So other athletes have to work other jobs in order to make a living, of course. But I think it's getting better, and even from 4 or 5 years ago, the situation is very different, and now more and more athletes are able to be professional runners full time. It's probably also very different from your time in the sport when you had to kind of you were more like a crossover athlete between trail, mountain running, track, and roads. You had to do a little bit of everything in order to make a living, I guess.
well, I mean, you know what I used to do? I used to say that running was my hobby, and that immediately took away any kind of financial stress or pressure, because effectively I was a professional runner for 6 months of the year, and then I would return back to my work for the other 6 months. So,
Okay.
but that was kind of a way I could take away that stress of having to have performances for financial benefit. So.
Did you have to rely just mainly on prize money, or do you have a monetary contract with the brand?
Yeah, I had a monetary contract with the brand, but not enough to live on back then. But yeah, it was the work. I knew I could go back to a job. So if things went south, like if I got injured and I couldn't run or race for 6 months, I knew I had something to go back to. So that was always a way that I could make sure that I wasn't stressed about the racing side of it.
May I inquire, what did you do outside of, like, as a job in your younger days?
I'm an architect.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Cool.
That's a bit outside the sporting world. But now with my work with La Sportiva, I've always had an interest in design, product design. And so now to still be kind of involved in that field, I've sort of found my niche, I think.
There you go.
But yeah, just you now being a professional runner, how do you kind of divide your time as well? You have the flexibility, but how does that kind of benefit you?
Yeah, the main thing is to have time for training, like enough time for training, and obviously recovery. I feel like recovery gets always sacrificed a little bit. Yeah, like you really have to be intentional and prioritize recovery, otherwise you just don't recover enough. Also because I'm someone who tends to take on a lot and do many projects,
Sure.
the PTRA, and then I have some personal projects, and I do a little bit of coaching on the side. I have a personal podcast.
That's awesome.
So just many things
Renaissance man.
which are exciting, but they also take a lot of time and energy away from training and recovery, which for a pro runner is obviously the priority. But yeah, I think there is, I think it looks different for different people. Not everybody needs to be the same, and I think like a cool thing that I realize is that I don't have to I don't have to stick to the idea of the ideal professional athlete that I used to have in my mind, but I can build my own version of what professional running looks like for me, as long as it works and as long as I'm happy.
That's wonderful. I think we would
Doing well.
say in the United States that you can wear many hats.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I also think
you-
it's good to
Go
have
ahead.
something like outside of running as well. So I like how you talk about the coaching aspect. Okay, it's still very much running related, but you're not thinking about yourself all the time.
Do you
Yeah,
have any?
like almost everything I do is running related, um, which has some pros and cons, but it's not always about me. It's also a lot of work for other people, and I think being able to help other people, whether in training or like with the PTRA or with other projects, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Were any of your runners here this weekend participating in the loot?
I actually have a couple of runners. Yeah, one from Palm Springs, California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that I visited just a couple of months ago when I was in the U.S. for my race at Canyons, and yeah, she raced the 50K yesterday.
Fantastic.
Really
That's
enjoyed
awesome.
it.
That's so
Got
nice.
you got to give her a shout out.
And,
Yeah, her too.
and you spend quite a lot of time in the States, don't you? Do is it how does that benefit your training and racing?
Yeah, usually because I try to combine maybe the participation to a race with a training camp or maybe a couple of races like I did last year. Since it's a big trip and traveling is stressful, I think it's worth spending a bit of time and also like it's for you do it for the experiences and you can learn a lot by living in a different countries and seeing how other people are living and training.
That's
So
true.
Yeah, I was really lucky this year, for example, that I had the opportunity to do a training camp in Mammoth Lakes in California, and then race at the Canyons 100K. Last year, for example, I raced the Chacanat 50K, one of the historic 50K races of the west coast
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
U.S.
Absolutely.
And then I stayed for 3 weeks in Boulder, and then I raced Lake Sonoma, which is another classic. Yeah,
West Coast. West
yeah,
Coast is the
West
best coast,
classic.
as we like to say.
Yeah.
Do you like having had a lot of experience running over in the United States and me kind of starting to learn about this world? I have seen in some of the different like podcasts and some of the different interviews that I've been watching this year, it's come up some comparisons. Like, is there a big difference in style between North American runners and like the European-based runners? And like in
Also
your
the
opinion,
races as well. Yeah.
yeah, like in your opinion, like what may be some of the bigger differences or similarities? Maybe that's not true at all. Maybe everybody's just running and running is running. I don't know. we like to divide ourselves.
Yeah, running
up
is
into
running,
groups,
but there are some differences. I really like how close the community is in the U.S. It's a very close community, and I think also a lot of people feel a sense of responsibility towards the sport and their community.
Sure.
So, for example, if you just look at the participation to events, you're like in the US, people know that it's not just about running a race. You can also do like volunteer at an aid station, do trail work, and just help
The
the
logistics
event.
of the event.
Yeah, exactly. There, you can get involved at different levels, and here is much less of a thing. And yeah, of course, we have volunteers at races, but probably like no, virtually anyone is doing trail work. For example, that's just an example.
Sure.
Another difference that I find is like the size of the events. Usually in Europe they're much larger, but I think in the US you're able to like give importance and value to some events that are actually quite small, but that you can showcase really well, and that's great. I mean, and sometimes from the European side, they look like just like big events, and then you go there and you see like they're quite small, like quite
Grassroots.
grassroots, and
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
like small communities. And I was surprised, for example, at Chacanat is a relatively small race, but
Sure.
it's still very important for the U.S.
Yeah, interesting.
Trail running culture, for example.
And is it small also because numbers are limited because running into
Yeah.
national parks?
So
And,
yeah, I've
Exactly.
heard like exactly that.
There is
the
this issue with
restrictions on numbers.
permits in the U.S. So yeah, you cannot just organize like a 5,000 people race like here. You can easily do that. Um, Sierra 6,000 people run on the same course on the same day. Uh, I think it's pretty much impossible to do that in the U.S. unless
Do you
you
think-
go on like private land.
Do you guys think that there's a little bit of a different conceptualization about like what nature and the wild is in North America, in the Americas versus in Europe, where we're living right now?
I mean, here in Europe, um, we have the Alps. They're basically like this huge playground, but we don't have any wilderness left unless you go like really high in the mountains, like on the glaciers or like on the highest mountains.
Sure.
But in the U.S., you have these like big open spaces that are still pretty unspoiled, and that also reflects on, for example, how trails are built. Like you have very like long distance hiking trails, the Pacific Crest Trail, the John Muir Trail,
Appalachian Trail.
Appalachian Trail, obviously, and that reflects on the style of how people run and hike and just recreate. Here, it's just different. Even like a simple concept like a trailhead, it's not really a thing here.
No, in
But
fact,
in the
in fact-
U.S., there's a trail and the trailhead, and usually a bathroom next to the trailhead.
Right.
Which is so
And then you will
so
not see-
nice.
It's just more New Zealand style as well.
Right, like I'm sure that like even like because New Zealand also has, I think, probably its own culture when it comes to nature and how the geography and the population informs how you kind of feel about wilderness and nature and wild.
Yeah, just being really, really careful about how to manage numbers of people going into places. Whereas you tend to find in Europe, you'll hit the trail, you'll go up, and there'll always be like a mountain hut or a restaurant, something.
There's
something.
always somewhere to find an espresso, and if you're lucky, a grappa.
True. Whereas, as Francesco says, you go out, you leave the trailhead, and that's it. You don't see anything for hundreds of miles.
Yeah, once you're in the back country in the U.S., you're really out in the wilderness, and nobody's gonna save you. Like you have to be able to provide for yourself and your own safety. Here, you're pretty much always close to a village or a mountain hut or something, some kind of civilization. So it looks different.
Yeah, you feel a little bit vulnerable when you go out into those spaces. So, I mean, just to touch on that subject, but in terms of safety, I mean, what do you do? When you do run out in the States or anywhere?
Yeah, have you ever had any experiences maybe with wildlife or just being out alone, getting caught in the weather out there by yourself is probably a little bit different than getting caught out here.
Yeah, I never had any bad experience, mostly because whenever I went for a long run or on a trail that I didn't know, I was usually with someone else. So the best is, of course, to go with someone who already knows the land, the trail. I did meet a rattlesnake on the trail
Really?
like a couple of months ago, but it was pretty chill. So
As
yeah,
rattlesnakes
it didn't
go.
bother me.
As rattlesnakes go. Just kind of shaking his tail a little bit, but
And then I saw a couple of bears, but they were also just looking at me and not doing anything.
Just wave at each other and
Just walk
continue on
away
your
and-
business.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess there's always a moment of like, okay, what if?
But yeah, people it's a different experience. For example, I was with my friend in Palm Springs, and they are always like alert on where they put their feet because of snakes and wildlife. And here, like, go out running, and we don't really think about wildlife or like pretty much any kind of danger. Um, but they always have to pay attention.
No, that's how growing up in Phoenix, Arizona, like it is actually like you're told from a young age like to pay attention to where you put your feet and your hands out in the desert because of the spiders and the snakes that go into the cool areas that are shaded in that hot summer sun or that hot winter sun as well. So.
Yeah, good advice.
But it is interesting how the geography kind of informs even the style, the tracks, and the style of being able to run.
Yeah, well, taking local advice is obviously the best thing to do for preparation. Well, let's bring it back to. I want to talk about maybe the commercialization and professionalism in the sport, because from what I can see, there's been such a big change, even in the last 5 years, maybe even shorter time than that. And you kind of famously left with one of your sponsors because you were unhappy with some of the activities. So, I mean, tell us about. I mean, there's always pros and cons, but being able to live as a professional runner, but there's always this kind of balance. And how do you see the kind of the commercialization of the sport? I don't really like that word, but I mean, with obviously companies coming in, of course they want to have a benefit from that, a material benefit. But how can we sort of retain the values that we really hold as special as a part of that?
Yeah, you're right. I also don't really like the word commercialization, because to me it means like
It means exploiting.
profit for profit.
Sure.
Yeah.
As a negative connotation.
Yeah, and I would like to think that if any company or brand is getting involved in the sport, is not just because they want to benefit from it from a financial perspective, but because they want to somehow help the sport, the growth of the sport, and however you define growth. For me, it's mainly about like creating opportunities for people to get involved and run. So yeah, I think maybe a sustainable way to look at this problem is like unless a brand has a positive impact on the sport and the community, it's probably not going to be very sustainable on the long term, because it's just profit for profit, as I said. And I think there is a social responsibility that these companies should have. And
What do you think? Most brands are kind of getting that? Do you think that's maybe?
I think some are, and some maybe are not as much. But yeah, I cannot say that they don't care at all. I think there are definitely brands that are building meaningful projects in the sport, and obviously, for example, I wouldn't be able to make a living without the support of a company. So yeah, I don't think like professionalization and commercialization mean that just like some people. I think some people are afraid that the sport is going to lose, its values and how it used to be when it started.
Una volta fa.
Yeah, I mean, evolution is part of.
It's a natural part of
It's
the
a natural
life cycle.
process, exactly. and it definitely brings pros and cons, but I think different things can coexist. So it doesn't mean that if the sport is becoming more professional that there is not room for uh, another, like, other ways to get involved and participate in the sport.
And what about the various kind of circuits that are around? So it can be quite tough kind of explaining our sport to people who have no idea.
Yeah.
I remember my first meeting with Walter more than a year ago, explaining kind of the nature of our sport and the various groups and organizations that were behind it. And
a lot of acronyms out there. There's a lot of acronyms out there.
But Americans love an acronym.
You know it, man. If we can capitalize the first letter in every word and like have something snappy, like
we got
we're gonna
UTMB,
take it, baby.
we got WRA, we got IDRA. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. But yeah, it is a kind of complicated sport to explain. But how do you see the kind of the evolution of that? I mean, things are being created, because of need, and there was a kind of a vacuum in off-road running for many years. What about the direction going forward? What would you like to see as your vision, and especially being involved in the PTRA? They're a good acronym there.
Yeah. Yeah, there is for sure a lot of fragmentation at the moment. Also because I think we tend to see trail running as one sport, but it's actually like many different events under one umbrella that is called trail running. So it's like when you say track and field, there are so many events, so many different athletes doing different things. And with trail running is even more because each race is different, and there is virtually no limit to the distances and type of races that you can build depending on the geography and the terrain. So it's a very complex sport to understand from the outside, and it's just its nature, I think. And I don't think we should deny it, but I think we should probably try to simplify it a little bit, and instead of fighting among each other, one circuit trying to maybe fight the other circuits to have more visibility or attract more athletes, more sponsors, more audience. We should try to work together to elevate the sport and take it to the next level, make it more popular for people, for not just for people to be part of it, but also for people to watch it now that it's becoming a thing, with the live streams and stuff. So yeah, I think historically federations never really had a big influence on the sport because it developed from various experiences and races, events from the community. Now that it's getting more professional and there is more people getting involved, and with the circuits, realizing that they need to establish better standards and rules, I think they're feeling the need for a federation to really come in and set some standards and rules. For example, in terms of anti-doping or prize money, or these issues that are actually very relevant to the sport. So, for example, here in Italy, if your race is not affiliated under a national federation, you can actually not distribute prize money. You can actually not have anti-doping, and that's a big issue, for example.
Yeah, that's a super big deal.
Yeah. So that's why it's important that federation work together with events and race organizers and circuits to establish some standards. And it's not. I don't think like putting more. It's not like about putting more rules, but I don't think federations are there to create problems. They're actually there to solve problems. But a lot of times, the funny thing is that in trail running, a lot of people always saw, the rules and the federations as a limitation to their freedom to do whatever they wanted, but now they're realizing that it's not really like that.
I think when it functions well, it can be more like a shepherd
Yeah.
that is helping to move
Yeah.
the sport forward, as opposed to holding it back and just regulating it.
Well, at least a kind of like a standardization, so that people understand there's a certain level that every race it kind of meets, and as you mentioned, anti-doping, to make sure that the sport that we love and we enjoy is also fair and fair for everybody to race and compete at the same level. So.
And one last thing I'd like to touch on, you were mentioning just kind of about like building exposure, and not just opportunities for the athletes and the participants, but also building the opportunities to be able to follow this sport and learn these stories. And like I know that one of the biggest things that I heard coming into this week was when you threw down the gauntlet and said that I'm going to come there and I'm going to run this race in less than 4 hours. And I got to tell you, and we were talking about it also with Daniele, who we were interviewing before. We both were just like mad props. Like we loved the fact that you were willing to try and build some hype, and it didn't even really matter. It didn't matter what was going to happen. Like what was important was that I was interested and wanted to know exactly what the timing was, and was going to follow it all the way through. And I started to learn. We started to learn more about your story. And also your personality as well, and I was just like, thank you. It made my weekend like more exciting and more interesting, and that's why like sport is wonderful and great for me.
Yeah, I think we need more stories, and I think we need like more like people helping athletes have a platform to share their stories. I think it's very powerful when a brand, for example, works with an athlete to share their story, and it's not just about their results and races, but also about carrying a message, sharing a story. That can be very powerful in terms of inspiration for people, but also for the brand, like for marketing. I see a lot of potential there, and my intention was not to really build hype around this race, but it was just a personal goal that I had since I was so close to the 4-hour barrier 2 years ago. Obviously, like the next logical step was to try to break 4 hours, and I tried really hard. But
I think the hype just kind of comes naturally because it's fun when you hear that, and it's exciting to think about. Like, and then the hype is naturally born from that. I don't think it's
that's true. Yeah, also like usually
as the kids would
in
say, I
trail
don't
running,
think it's really
we don't really
aura farming exactly. Like
also in trail running, we never really talk about times, and people like even high level athletes are always like, yeah, I'm here to run my race and to have fun. But I think to say a goal out loud and to dare to try is it's fun.
Dare to try, baby. Dare to try all day long,
Well,
7 days a week. Yeah.
And I love your T-shirt, Francesco. So can we get an update on the women's field? Because I'm not sure, but I think then we might be getting close to a finish pretty soon. And I don't want to miss it here. So Courtney's out there. She's still out there on track. We still have Alicia Clark in second place. So American 1 and 2. So you're going to be happy, Walter. And are we looking at a change in third place there? Because
absolutely,
Luisa de Mateus, coming through for third place. I mean, I saw her around the top 5 or 6 earlier on.
Can we scroll down a little bit more, please?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what's happened now. We got
look at that, Sophie Grant.
Sophie Grant's coming
moved
through
in the top 10.
Great job. And I noticed that Courtney had come through the field, come through the men's field as well. So she was outside the top 20 overall, and she's in around 15th place now. So,
No kidding.
So she's obviously
Amazing.
managed her race
Fantastic.
really well. Francesco it was Daniele was saying that he saw her at a hard moment early in the morning, but then as she came through Colgalina coming into the last 23 kilometers, that she was starting to look stronger again. So looks like she's controlling her race really well. So let's scroll up to the profile and just see how far they have got to the finish, because Courtney for sure will be coming down. Oh yes, she's coming
Very
off
close.
she's coming off the last descent, and then she's going to have the last run, the flat. Well, you say it's flat into town, but the last section is the same as the 50k. I don't remember it being all that flat, because there's a little hill as you come back up into Cortina, isn't it?
You have a few little hills that kind of break the downhill, so you always have to push, and it also changes your cadence and biomechanics, which adds another layer of challenge at the end of the race, especially if you're trying to run really fast.
And
it was hard.
What about cramping in the last downhill? Is that a thing?
I didn't cramp. I just had a little cramp on the descent to Colgalina, because I had a little fall, and I bent my knee, and I think the reaction from the fall and from getting up was to just feel a little cramp in my quads, but luckily it didn't last very long, and I was able to keep running.
Right.
Hey, look, Francesco, you've been so generous with your time.
Incredibly generous with your time.
And-
Thank you so much for yesterday and for today.
Thanks for offering me this platform.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. We love having you here on the radio show. And as we, I think we should definitely do another photo with Francesco today. And you can see the wall is filling up behind us with all of our guests from the show. So we're really lucky to have such amazing guests with us. And of course, we're looking forward to talking with Courtney later on today, as well as Martina Valmasoy, who will be also joining us later on too. So
we're gonna take a quick a pause, and then we'll be back at 1:15 our local time with the arrival of the 120 women's, and then in that next hour we'll be able to talk with Courtney and with Martina Valmasoy, which is also going to be a really nice opportunity for us. But again, thank you so much, Francesco, for being here for us and being so open with us.
See you soon, everybody. Thank you.